And remember to celebrate the little wins. Why do I talk about this? It came up a couple of times this week in conversation. And here's the thing. How often, let me ask you, how often do we focus on the things that went wrong instead of the things that went well? How many times do you beat yourself up and tell yourself that you failed when in fact it was simply a lesson for you to learn? What is it you could do better the next time? And in fact, have you ever thought about, or in fact given up simply because one thing didn't go as planned, when in fact so much else had gone perfectly well? Here's the thing, our human brains are wired to focus on the negatives before we even consider the positives, and therefore bringing our attention to this. And what we habitually do that doesn't serve us, and this is a great step towards consciously redirecting our focus to the amazing, talented human beings that we are. So let me share a little bit more about that. I have some notes that I prepared for this to share with you. So first of all, what is the impact of not celebrating your little wins? It could be that if you don't recognize, if you don't stop and take stock and reflect, what happens is you then feel that maybe I'm a failure, or you feel like you're struggling to get through and maybe you're just not good enough. It's going to impact your confidence, maybe your self-belief, your belief in your own abilities. You'll get more concerned about others' opinions and people judging you because of all of these negative emotions that you're experiencing. And it'll hold you back. It'll hold you back rather than propelling you forward. So there's a lot of significant impact to you as a human being, as an individual, as well as the way that you perform, because it will impact your motivation, maybe your ability to focus, your desire to succeed. There's so much that it can impact, as I said, individually or in your work, in your career. And that will have a bigger impact on everything else that you do. And here's the thing, as I said, our brain is naturally wired to first of all see the negative before we see all the great things around us. And this is why something I advocate for my clients is to practice daily gratitude, because by doing so, we then begin to focus more on what we do have rather than what we don't have. So we focus on the good things, the positive things in our life, however small they might be, because now we're retraining our brain, those neural pathways, to refocus on the good in our lives, the good things around us. And as I said, it could be the smallest things, or the biggest things could be the seeing the sunrise in the morning, the beautiful blue skies, the ability to breathe, having a great sleep, having a roof over your head. All of these things are things to be grateful for. There is so much when you start thinking about it that we can list. And so by doing that, we then start to hone those neural pathways to focus more on what we do have and what has gone well rather than what didn't. So my invitation to you on today's episode is to take some time and write down all of your wins, your successes, your accomplishments. Now, this doesn't have to only be about work. This can be things that you've done in your own personal life, whether it's hobbies, activities, something that you've had to deal with, a big challenge that you've had. They're all things that you've overcome, you've accomplished, that is a success or a win. And remember, this is personal to you. It's not something that you have to put out on social media, but it's personal for you. So here's the thing. I had a conversation yesterday with a client who said to me that she'd written down a few things, but then she thought, well, actually, that's not really a win. So she took it out. And the question to ask yourself, if that happens for you, is why not? Because the fact that you put it down in the first place, or you thought of it, suggests to me that in your mind somewhere, that was a win. That was an accomplishment. And you succeeded at something, or you did something different that you hadn't done before. So no matter what anyone else thinks, that doesn't matter. This is about you. So taking that time to really check in with yourself and okay, over my life, what have been the things that I'm proud of, that I feel, I did really well, that I deserve a pat on the back for? and give yourself that pat on the back and make that list. And what I want you to do is, when you've made that list, you'll still start remembering things as time goes on that you can add to that list. And of course, every day there'll be new things that happen that you can add to that list. And the point being here that we're redirecting those neural pathways to focus on all of those good things in our life, because sometimes life can get us down and we feel like it's out of control and we don't know what to do. And so coming back to those wins, it will reinforce how great you are, how talented you are, and all those accomplishments, successes, and wins that you've experienced throughout your life that pass us by sometimes. We forget to celebrate. So think about it. If we do that exercise and then we get to see that list, you can maybe pin it up on the wall, have it next to your bed so you read it every night or every morning to just reinforce and remind you of how great you are. And think about the impact that will have on your confidence, your self-belief, and even the way that you're motivated to do well, to perform at a level of excellence, and to let go of other people's opinions, because you know you have that inner certainty of how good you really are. And that's all that matters. It's what's within you. So having that inner certainty that I am talented, I'm successful, I have achieved so much in my life, however big, however small, it's personal to you, can have a significantly positive impact on you as an individual, your mental health, the way that you show up, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you perform in the workplace, the way that you are amongst your family and friends. It's a small exercise to do, and it can have a significant impact. And I wanted to share a personal example to give you some context of this. So I was invited to speak at an event about, I think it's about 3 years ago now. And there were about 50 people in the room. So I delivered my talk, and the organization elicited feedback from everybody on the overall event, so on all of the individual speakers as well. Now, during the event, or at the end of my session, I invited people to connect with me. So I shared out on all of the seats beforehand a postcard. And if people wanted to then connect with me, to have a conversation with me and so forth, they could complete that postcard and return it to me at the end. So as I said, there were about 50 people in the room, and I received back about 40, I think it's about 42, 43 cards. So that's pretty good going, because oftentimes statistics, when we look at these things, sometimes you might be lucky to get 50% of the room, 20%, it depends. I was quite pleased with the fact that I got about, I think, 42, 43 cards returned to me. So all of those people were prepared to share some of their details with me, answer some questions that were on the card, and also arrange a conversation with me. And that was great. So I came away feeling that that was a win, because I'd inspired, I'd motivated people, they'd really resonated with what I'd shared. But here's the thing. A few days later, I received the feedback that the company had elicited from the individuals. And it was in a spreadsheet, and there were 4 comments that were quite critical and negative of what I had done and what I'd spoken about, and various aspects of my talk. So what happened? I read that, and as I mentioned, the first thing I did is I'm focusing on all of these negative comments. And straight away, I was in my own head, and I was stressing, I was gutted, I was upset. I then started to feel like, what am I doing? I'm not good enough. Maybe I should go back to my job because I'm really not a good speaker, or I should just stop speaking altogether. You know, maybe this whole thing of running my own coaching practice and being a public speaker was a bad idea because people don't like it, and, you know, it doesn't land with them, it doesn't resonate, and people are just really critical of it. So all of this internal dialogue was going on for me. And I'm sharing this with you to show you an example of what I've been talking about, right? That we naturally focus on the small criticism rather than the big success. And that's exactly what I was doing. And I was really upset. And it really impacted my confidence about what I do. And this lasted for a day or two. And then my partner said to me, he says, "What's the matter? You seem really down." And I said to him, and I was almost in tears, telling him that, I got these 4 people who'd really criticized what I did. And he listened to me, and I said, "Yeah, and I'm thinking, maybe I should just go back to work and go back to my job. And this isn't for me. And, I'm not a good speaker, and I'm not impacting people as I want to, and, how I'd set out to do, and so forth." And he just listened to me. And then he said, "But how many postcards did you say you got back from people wanting to have a call with you?" And I stopped. He stopped me in my tracks. And I thought, oh, yeah, about 42, 43. And he said, "Okay, so in a room of 50 people, you had 4 people that weren't happy with what you did for some reason or other. And you had 43 people who really want to have a conversation with you. Yeah. So why are you focusing your energy on the people who didn't resonate with you when you've got 43 people that you could be getting on a call with and coaching them, supporting them, and feeling great, feeling energized about what you do and doing what you love?" And it was that conversation that really struck home for me as to how quickly we can forget about those successes and the things that went well, to looking at the one little thing, or that small percentage of something that didn't go so well. And here's the thing, we then start to have that self-doubt, feeling that we're not good enough, maybe wanting to give up. And I was close to that. I was really disappointed. I felt like a failure, questioning myself, my abilities. And that's huge, because you run the risk then of making a decision, an emotional decision, which is completely irrational, but could impact the rest of your life. And that's not something you want to be doing. So let me know if this resonates with you. Let me know if you've ever been in a situation, or somebody who's been in a situation like this, where you kind of forget, you don't notice all of the good things going on for you, the successes and the wins and what went well, but instead you focus on the one little thing that didn't go to plan, or didn't go, you didn't win, or it wasn't a success, or you got some critical feedback. And that's the thing that brings us down. So this is about tuning into yourself, to your inner thoughts, your inner dialogue, how you're speaking to yourself, and what you're focusing on. And here's what I invite you to do when this happens is, number 1, to exercise compassion for yourself. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up, because that's the first thing we do, is we start to beat ourselves up. And that's what I did in that example I've just shared with you. And remember, there is no perfection. We can all perform at a level of excellence, whatever that level of excellence is for you. There is no perfection. We create that in our own mind, and then we end up letting ourselves down. So we're setting ourselves up for failure, because there is no perfection. My view of that is, you simply do the best that you can at all times in everything you set your mind to. You can only do your best. Strive for excellence in all that you do, and take it up a level. So keep pushing yourself to do even better. And that can be your definition of perfection. Ask yourself, what did I learn? So if you do get criticism, if you do get negative feedback, if something doesn't go well, or it fails to work, or isn't received well, stop and ask yourself, okay, what did I learn from this? And what can I do differently and even better the next time? So what is the lesson? Because it's not about failing, it's about learning. It's the lesson that we take from it and what we do the next time. If we keep doing the same thing over and over and failing, then of course, we're not learning from it. But actually, everything that happens in our life is a learning. So take it as a learning and think to yourself, ask yourself, okay, what can I do better the next time? What can I do differently to make this work, or to get a better outcome? And journal. So journal. After you've made that full list, then each day or each week, take a few minutes, just sit down and journal about your wins. Again, they could be the smallest thing. It could be just smiling at a stranger and brightening their day, or having a stranger smile at you. It could be helping somebody out in the supermarket, carrying their shopping to the car for them. It could be anything. But there's little wins for you that help you to then start to focus on the good in your life and all the things that you're great at, that you do well, that are little successes, the little pat on the back, giving yourself that recognition rather than waiting for that external validation, because you're then more in control of how you're showing up. You're more in control of your own confidence, of managing that, of your performance in the workplace, because you're now more confident, you're motivated. And when you're confident, you perform differently than when you're lacking that belief in yourself, when you have that self-doubt. So you want to be checking in with yourself. And I'll give you some examples here of things to consider when you're writing that list, because you may be sitting there thinking, well, I don't really have anything. I often invite my clients to do this exercise, particularly when they are coming from a place of lacking confidence or questioning themselves, their abilities, their self-doubt. And it usually stems from one thing that somebody has said to them, a comment that's been made, or a situation that's occurred that just completely drains them of their confidence in themselves and their abilities. Similar to the example I gave you of me speaking and what happened to me. So by reprogramming those neural pathways to start focusing on the positives has a significant impact on the way that we then show up, our performance, and then the results and the experiences that we have. So think about this. And first of all, remember, this is personal to you. This isn't something you need to share with anybody else, but it's things that make you feel good. So as an example, how far have you come from when you started out in your career? Think about that. I shared a little bit with you about myself in that regard at the start of this live. So think about how far you have come. What have you accomplished? Maybe you tried a new role and done something for the first time, or you've improved. You can see your improvisation significant in something that you set out to do, and maybe initially you weren't great at, and now you can do it with your eyes closed. That's progress, that's learning, that's development, that's growth. All of those things are so important to recognize for yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you or to recognize it for you. Think about where you've tried something new, where you've overcome a fear. Maybe you've stepped up and done something different. Perhaps you've asked for what you wanted, so you've spoken up. Maybe you've asked for that pay rise or for a promotion, or shared something that you weren't happy about. Perhaps you've made yourself heard and you've been listened to, and that's not happened before. That's a win. That's a success for you. Maybe you got that promotion or that project to work on that you so wanted. Is that not a success for you? Is it a little win, maybe? Think about the recognition that you get. So the external recognition from others. Stop and appreciate it and take note of it. Whether it's a reward, a pat on the back, a pay rise, a bonus. Again, you want to reinforce all the good things that you do have rather than focusing on what you don't have or what didn't work. Think about your professional success. Take some time to look at that and look at how far you've come, what you've accomplished during that time, what you've learned, the people that you've met, all of those positives, maybe the people that you've impacted around you. Perhaps you mentor people, you support people in your team. Think maybe you work in a male-dominated environment and initially you found it really challenging, and now you've overcome that and you're confident and you're able to speak up and to hold your own. Perhaps you invest in your own personal development and you've grown significantly, both personally and professionally. You've improved in maybe some of your skills, your abilities. All of these things are wins, they're successes, their achievements, their accomplishments. Perhaps you're a public speaker. Maybe you've done a presentation or a talk for somebody, an organization, an event, a conference. And, previously, first of all, it might be the first time you've done it. That's a win. Secondly, it might be something you never have dreamt you would do and you were absolutely crapping yourself to do it, but you've done it. That's a win. That's a success. All of these things are wins. So stop and take the time to applaud yourself and to celebrate. Think about maybe being a stand for somebody in your team or your organization, maybe for diversity and inclusion in the workplace. What are you a stand for? Again, that's a win, that you're taking that time and speaking up and being a stand for others. Where is it that you add value? What is the value that you bring to the table in the workplace? Again, stop and recognize that and acknowledge it. And think about this again as wins for you. They're successes. They're things that will help you to focus on how great you are, how brilliant you are, and not about the negatives, the things that you think, oh, I'm not good enough, or people are going to judge me. And, you start to question your beliefs and have that self-doubt. Think about when you've inspired someone, when somebody's maybe acknowledged you for something you've said or done, and you hadn't really realized it wasn't maybe intentional, but you've really inspired them because of maybe your career journey or a conversation you had with them that has them go and do something different in their own lives. That's a win for you. This isn't about being selfish or taking credit where credit's not due. This is about recognizing how you show up and how amazing you are as a human being. So, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. So think about that. I've just given you a load of examples there of things that can be wins, their successes, their accomplishments for you. So my invitation to you today is to take some time out, if you haven't done so before, to write them all down. And I'm talking about from the year dot for as far back as you can remember. So even things that maybe you did at school and, going through your education before you started work. Think about things in your personal life that you've accomplished. There could be so many things that maybe it's a hobby or an activity that you get involved in, or something, a charity that you help out with, some voluntary work that you do, whatever it might be. There'll be aspects of that there'll be times where you think, oh yeah, that was great, but nobody says anything to you, and that's okay. It's about you telling yourself that you're great and recognizing your wins, your success. So that's my invitation for today, is don't forget to celebrate the little wins, because it will create such a significant shift internally for you in your own certainty in yourself. And having inner certainty is so, so powerful. Something I work with my clients on consistently is having that inner certainty, that confidence in who you are, how you're showing up, your abilities, having that confidence in yourself. Because when you have that and when you nail it, you will show up so differently, and you will have different experiences, different results in your life, and it will blow your mind to experience that when you've coming from a place where you have that, you carry the self-doubt and maybe the lack of self-worth, your lack of belief in yourself, in your abilities, and maybe shying away and not having that confidence. This activity on its own will really improve or turn that around to have you showing up with that certainty and that confidence. So take the time to do it. Remember, you want to retrain your brain, those neural pathways, to start to focus on all the good things, all the successes and all of the wins, to have you showing up as the best version of you. So I hope that's been insightful, it's been useful, and you've got some takeaways from it, and it's resonated with you in some way. If it has, then let me know. If you have any questions, then please pop them in the comments. I will come back and respond to everyone. And if you want to reach out to me privately with any feedback, then please do. But in the meantime, I invite you once again to please remember to celebrate your little wins, because it will elevate you to another level when it comes to that certainty and confidence. And that creates a huge sense of freedom. And it's an amazing place to live from. So not seeing any comments coming in at the moment. So until next time, remember to build your influence, make an impact, and be remembered for the right reasons by showing up as the best version of you. And before you run away, remember to click on the link in the comments and grab your copy of the Personal Brand Playbook if you haven't done so already. And also, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you can get previous episodes of these lives, as well as today we have just published episode 50 of the podcast. There's some incredible interviews in there with leaders from the tech industry openly sharing so much that will inspire you and motivate you to be the best version of you and to show you what is possible. So until next time, you take care, have a great rest of the week, and I will see you very soon. And if you need to reach out, if you have any questions for me, please do so. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.